West Virginia and Oklahoma State are making my head spin. SEC visitors, Big Ten visitors, commitments galore. I mean, I can't keep up with it all. Can you? Let's talk about it as both of these teams are quite literally crushing the portal right now. Let's go.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host here. Welcome back into a Locked On Oklahoma State, Locked On West Virginia crossover. We're covering both teams today because it's really hard to do this individually. There's just so much going on right now. I could do individual videos absolutely on each, but I have to give myself some time. I spent the last 5 days in a row from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. in front of the computer, and I just can't be doing it. I have to give myself more of a break. So I'm trying to combine some of these. I'm enjoying it, though. Like, I really am enjoying it. I just had to think about my overall health. All right, so this episode of Locked On West Virginia and Locked On Oklahoma State going to be brought to you by our friends, and we do love our friends here at FanDuel. Usually the old saying for that is $5 is going to make you holla, but not right now. Right now with FanDuel, it's this. If you want to be a part of the college football playoff discussion, well, it's here. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff prior boosts, profit boosts in every game day. And thanks for making Locked On West Virginia and Oklahoma State your first listens, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one podcast network in the country, where we talk about your team, the Mountaineers and the Pokes, every single day. Thank you guys so much for being patient while I got this together. My head's spinning, man. So we're going to start where we start. Obviously, we know who's committed. We know who's visiting, or I think we know. And it's a big deal because I do think that Oklahoma State has put itself in a position to really potentially be a bowl winning team plus in year one. And I think it's not unrealistic for them. It's a lot of roster turnover, but they're building it right. They're taking the chances on some players. We're talking to talk about that. West Virginia's got major talent on campus, either right now or coming to campus. You've got a first-team all-conference offensive lineman on campus. You've got one of the best safeties in the Big Ten, quite literally, coming to campus. So, can you lock them down? You've got a top 100 wide receiver on campus right now that tells me the visit's going extremely well. So, and I'm talking about the 4-star wide receiver from LSU. So there's a lot to talk about. We're going to try to weave in and out. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to start with Oklahoma State because I missed them yesterday. So we're going to start with their player first. Then we'll go to West Virginia. I think the big one for them, there's two, but we'll start with Jacob Sexton because it's Oklahoma, right? Obviously, little brother gives big brother an elite offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman at 6'6", 294 from Edmond, Oklahoma. And this is a big deal for them because anytime you take a Power 5 offensive lineman from your in-state rival, that's a big win. Sexton breathes size and pedigree and real developmental upside. The only bad thing about him is he's been injured the last 2 seasons. And take away from that what you will, but when you're in a rebuild situation, West Virginia did this last year. You take chances on guys that have played really well in the past. Sexton had some really big years in 2023 and half of 2024. Started a lot of games for Oklahoma. This is an elite player, guys. He just hasn't been healthy the last 2 seasons. If he's able to get right, you've got yourself an all Big 12 interior offensive lineman here. So it's really a question of, is he healthy or is he not? He's got a big frame. He's actually can probably add some weight. He's got the Oklahoma level offensive line coaching with Biedenbaugh. He has that guard center flexibility. And nobody can deny Oklahoma has one of the best offensive line coaches in college football. So, he's going to have a high football IQ. He's going to be technically sound. He's going to have a great base. I think he comes in immediately and is going to compete for a starting role on the interior. At worst, he's high end on the depth chart. That's if he he's lost a step or is just not healthy yet. But I think he's going to be potentially a multi-year starter for you guys. This is a trench setting addition for the Pokes. As far as West Virginia goes, how do I say his name again? Doggone it. I just looked it up. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure I'm saying it right. Let's see. All right. Kyeaure Magloire is how you say it. Is visiting West Virginia, speaking with the agency. He has some big places to get to first. He's going to Louisville. He's going to Texas Tech. So will he even make it to Morgantown? This is a question I have. Obviously, he's from Minnesota, Florida. And so West Virginia would be closest to home, especially other than Texas Tech, but Texas Tech is Texas Tech. He's got 1 year remaining. You know, this is a multi-year contributor with verified production. Obviously, not a one-season flash. He really played well last year at Iowa. 42 tackles, 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups, and a forced fumble this past fall after posting 30 tackles and 6 PBUs the season prior. You know, his resume shows consistency and some reliability rather than and Iowa has elite corners and safeties every single year. Obviously, Cooper DeJean is in the league, killing it right now. They've got the kid King that was a few years back that went into the league, and they consistently do that. Bill Parker's defense is not one to be trifled with, and they have elite players year in, year out. I think we all know that. So, you know, you look at this and you think, well, if West Virginia can get a player of this caliber, it's really a game changer. And in Zach Alley's defense, I'm assuming West Virginia is probably toting a pretty hefty bag for this one. You just hope that Texas Tech doesn't want him that bad and price you out. He's got rare size and length for his position at 6'3", 200 pounds. Plays really big in coverage. He's got really great ball skills. He finds the football. He finishes plays mad. He's a physical tackler. He's not afraid to come downhill, and he's really versatile in his deployment. So he can play high safety. He can play quarters. He can play in the big nickel spot as a big nickel. You know, so West Virginia has prioritized size and experience in the secondary for sure this offseason. And so we will absolutely check out, check out and see. You know what's wrong? I screwed up, guys. This was not the Iowa transfer. I do apologize. This is the Georgia, the West Georgia transfer. I do apologize. He will be on campus this afternoon. I totally got the name wrong. The name is right, but the team is wrong. So I do apologize for that. They're all mixed together here on me. So sorry about that, but he's actually on campus right now. So he didn't play for Iowa. He played for a different team. So I do apologize for that, but he's on campus right now. The Iowa player is a different name. His name is similar. It starts with a K too. It's Koen Entringer, however you say it. So I'm like, goodness gracious, man. I'm having trouble with keeping up with everything, I think. But this is a big one. And hopefully West Virginia can continue to bring guys in like this, because you got to bring them in, especially in the secondary right now. I think that's a big deal. So we'll definitely keep an eye on what happens with him. He texted me back earlier, said he would be on campus this afternoon. Oklahoma State, another big one. In Texas A&M transfer, Donovan Green, a guy that I'm familiar with because he visited West Virginia last year. He's a tight end from LSU, played at Texas A&M before that. That's where his real production was. I don't know what happened at LSU last year. I thought he was going to have a big year. He really considered West Virginia heavily, and he didn't end up coming to West Virginia. I would imagine that he's going to be a big contributor for you guys, because this is the kind of player that you just don't see every day in the Big 12. This is an elite athlete, guys. I really like this guy. He also colors shoes for a hobby. He's really good at it. I'm so intrigued by this pickup for Oklahoma State. I do think he's the kind of player that you could build around and put an elite offense on the field with. I mean, goodness gracious, what a blue chip level tight end he was coming out of high school, and now he spent time in Texas A&M and LSU strength and conditioning. So beating out the SEC pipeline for a player like this matters. He's a mismatch, red zone weapon. He can really flex out wide and play play attached. He's got an SEC developed body and physicality. So, I like a lot of what he's got for you guys. I just don't know what happened last year. I haven't been able to check in on him yet and ask him what the deal was there at LSU last year. Obviously, Brian Kelly, that was a mess. But I think he's an immediate starter at tight end. There's no way he comes in for anything less than that. And this is another one of those, you're taking a chance on a guy that I don't know what happened last year. I don't think he was hurt, but good Lord, could you get a much better upside as far as a tight end goes? I don't think so. And so this is another addition from the SEC that you bring in that, sure, there are some concerns. He hasn't played a lot at the last stop he was at. Coming out of A&M, I know he had some production, and they did not want to lose him. And so, now here you are, Oklahoma State. I really hoped West Virginia would get another visit from him because I thought West Virginia had a real shot at him last year. Me and him were communicating all the way up until the very end, and it just didn't happen. So I think LSU gave him a bag, and that's just the facts of it all, right? So I hope to goodness that he can actually put a season together now, because for me, man, it's like this kid can really go. All right, let's go to break here. I'll get to Entringer from Iowa here in just a second for West Virginia right after the break. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our friends at Rocket Money. And with Rocket Money, guys, if you didn't know, Rocket Money's putting together a pretty good package right now for Locked On listeners and for those that like, Rocket Money in general. As we know, tax season is coming about for everybody. And let's be real, though. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control, and who has time to track every transition or hunt down every hidden fee? That's where Rocket Money comes in. It's your personal finance app that helps you take control. It also finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Pretty good stuff. I was actually pretty shocked, man. Rocket Money showed me I was paying for a bunch of subscriptions I had twice, and then I completely forgot about, so it saved me money. It can save you money, too. The automatic transition categorization is a game changer. I can finally see exactly where my money is going each month, and you can set budgets, goals, personalized insights, and receive real-time alerts at large transactions, upcoming visits, and low balances, etc. Head to Rocket Money, where you can reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon and rocketmoney.com/lockedon. A much deserved segment 2 crack-a-doo segment moment here, because I can't believe I got mixed around there on that, but I really can't believe that West Virginia's got a visit from this kid. And I mentioned earlier, I think we talked about, Entringer, and even though it was another name, it's still the same deal, right? I mean, this is a guy that, he'll be at Louisville on Thursday. Texas Tech will follow, then West Virginia. That's per Alan Trieu. So he's in high demand. He started 12 games last year at strong safety for Iowa at their cash position. He had 100 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, an interception, and 5 pass breakups, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. He moved from Arizona to Michigan in high school. and finished his career at Walled Lake Western. So he was a first team All-State kid, went to Iowa, and now he's turned into not only one of the best safeties in the country, but just a team leader, and got the team leader award, made all academic, all Big Ten 3 times. This is the kind of player that doesn't come around every day. So if you can get a player of this caliber, I don't care if you're Michigan, you would take a player like this. This is an elite safety, and hopefully West Virginia understands, the magnitude of potentially getting a kid like this. I know they do. But man, you would have to pray that this kid takes that visit after Texas Tech, because man, it's weird though. I mean, why would you go from Louisville to Texas Tech when you're already in this part of the country? You think you would go from Louisville to Morgantown to Texas Tech, but I'm sure they're both having hefty bags, and I'm going to be shocked if he gets out of Lubbock, but we'll see. If he gets to Morgantown, that's a big visit for West Virginia. Back to Oklahoma State again. We talked about Sexton. We talked about Green. Justin Bowick, wide receiver from Illinois, 6'5", 195 pounds. This is the prototype Eric Morris receiver, I think. Length, long catch radius, vertical threat ability. This is a big-bodied boundary wide receiver who's going to be really good in the red zone. He's going to be great with contested catches. He expands spacing for the defense. I think he had right around 25 or 30 catches last year at Illinois for right around 300 or 400 yards. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I remember him to be in that range. Let me see. Let me look him up really quick. I somehow don't have the stats on here either. Trying to put a show together for 2 different teams. Let's see. Bowick, wide receiver, Illinois. Stats. Yeah, 22 catches for 265 yards. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, 22 catches, 265, and 5 touchdowns. He was also at Eastern Illinois, where he had 35 catches for 499 yards and 5 touchdowns. So this seems like a one of those guys that maybe he's not going to dominate from end to end in a game, but he's going to be a guy that, do you need a first down on third down? You can throw it to him, or maybe in the red zone. I mean, 5 touchdowns, it seems like he probably was a red zone target. So, this is a guy that you're going to obviously going to put right immediately in the rotation as a contributor and potentially starter potential, although it's going to be hard to get on the field with the receiver group that you guys have coming in already. But he is a scheme fit, and I do think he's going to work well within this system, and it's somebody that Oklahoma State fans should be excited about. I mean, this is a Power 4 transfer. This is what, fan bases complain about this. Well, we're getting Group of 5 or we're getting D2. You're getting a Power 4 transfer. He had production at a Power 4 school in the Big Ten. There's really nothing to be mad about here. And the thing is not every guy that comes in is going to be a Drew Mestemaker or Caleb Hawkins level player. You've got to get some depth, and when you got to need as many people as Oklahoma State does, trust me, we know from experience, and not every player is going to be a starter. So you just have to take them as they come. As far as West Virginia goes, we got another big one here. We talked about it earlier. And Amari Grayson, right? We love Amari Grayson. I think Amari Grayson is just a big-time potential pickup for West Virginia. I don't know, man. It seems like West Virginia struggled to get these Jack State transfers. I don't know what it is about it. I just think that Rick Trickett does such an elite job. For those of you who don't know from Oklahoma State, West Virginia probably has now. I'm not just saying this because we're West Virginia fans. West Virginia probably has the best offensive line coach left alive in the country, and Rick Trickett. Just type in Rick Trickett in your Google search bar, and you'll see what I mean. He's put 41 players in the NFL. He had two on his offensive line last year at Jack State. This guy's 78 years old, and he had two freshman All-Americans and two first-team All-Conference players. And at 78 years old, that's what he did last year. And so he comes back home to West Virginia this year, and we're hoping he can bring a couple of those guys with him. Mari Grayson is the best of the bunch. So this is a player that Mountaineer fans want badly, really badly. So he's got multiple years remaining, obviously, and he is a physical, downhill, 6'4", 310 pounds. He is a trench player built for contact and reps, and he is a nasty physical interior presence that plays with a ton of leverage and a ton of strength. And boy, does he have functional size for a guard. He is a downhill blocker who finishes plays. He doesn't start it, but he damn sure finishes it. And I think he understands blocks and interior fits as well. So, I really love this pick. If you can get him, he's got a lot of people that really want him. So you're going to have to fight for him, I would imagine. But, let's hope, because it would help so much. If West Virginia could get him, especially because you don't have to teach him the scheme. Like he already knows a lot of the techniques that Trickett's going to teach. It's such a fluid thing. One of your guys has already gone to Boston College, so you kind of hope that doesn't happen again. That's just my opinion, though. All right, so Oklahoma State, you've got another big one here in Tate Romney, a linebacker from Arizona State. This is a modern linebacker, in my opinion. 6'2", 200 pounds. He's got a lot of speed. He's got a lot of range. And I think he is the kind of kid that's going to come in and start right away. 6'2", 200 pounds, like we said. He brings that sideline to sideline with him. He can cover backs and tight ends pretty well out of the backfield. I like him, in multiple roles. But I think for me, it's like, this is a guy that's done it multiple stops now, and he's done it in the Big 12, right? So you like that. Now, here's the thing. He didn't play a lot last year at Arizona State. In 2023, he had 52 tackles. This is another one of those guys that you're bringing in that you're kind of hoping develops into what he was a couple years ago. But I do think he's going to play a lot of special teams and all that, especially if he's not where he once was. But, I like his tape from a couple years ago specifically. He can really run. So nothing to be mad about here. I think he's a great pickup for you guys. We'll keep an eye on him and see what he develops into. But, I do think that he, for whatever reason, hasn't worked out the last couple of years. It's another thing that we'll have to pay attention to, because it's just so hard to check in on every single player and figure out why didn't he work or why did he work, so we'll definitely hopefully see. But I think he's a kid that can come in that has upside, especially from you played at Arizona State. You learned a lot of good habits there. So that's another big one. Another really big one for West Virginia is Jamon Tapp. Let's go to break really quick. This may be the biggest of all that we haven't talked about yet. Defensive end that's played at Texas. He's also played at Arizona State too, and he had a pretty big year last year at Southern Miss. We'll talk about him next after the break. This episode is not going to be sponsored by anybody because we had no ad read. So we're going to get a quick drink here. All right. So Oklahoma State, you have one more. If you'll stick around for that, you got one more. We'll talk about him too. Jamon Tapp, defensive end out of Arizona State, Southern Miss, and Texas, is a defensive end and edge player that I love, man. I actually meant to bring his tape with me. He's got some tape on his page that I meant to to put in, and I forgot. But he's a power four edge defender with experience at two major programs, and he has posted some really good numbers. Last year at Southern Miss, he had 7.5 sacks and 19 tackles. And if you look at his total tackle number, is at 70. So he had 70 tackles last year at Southern Miss, 19 solo, 51 assisted, 7.5 sacks. That's elite production from the defensive end spot. This is not your typical DN that's just a pass. Like, this kid gets involved in the run game at an elite level. And go watch his Arizona. He put out some practice footage. So the Arizona State team that went really deep a couple years ago, he was on that team. And the practice footage is up of him going against their starting offensive line. I did fact check. On the tape, you can see the numbers of the O-line he's going against. So I was looking him up as I was watching the film to see, well, who is that guy? Is he a redshirt freshman? Because a couple years ago, I'll never forget, West Virginia got a player in from the portal. And I was watching his practice footage, and he was dominating dudes. And I was on here, I was all excited. And then somebody put in the comments, like, did you even check to see who he was practicing against? If he's a junior and he's playing against redshirt freshmen, he better be dominating them. So I went and looked, and sure enough, every single player he beat on that practice footage was a year or two younger than him, or third or fourth string. So, these kids can be smart and doctor their practice footage and just pick the clips where they're beating players that suck. So I've learned over time to check, like, okay, when somebody's doing good on a practice film cut up, because in a game it's most likely against. But if it's a practice film and it's like at a Power 4 university, always look up the players they're going against. And in this case, this dude was dominating the starting offensive line from Arizona State. So that got me really excited. And then you look at the numbers. 7.5 sacks is a really solid number. But 70 tackles is like, what? Is that real? So, Jamon Tapp on campus at West Virginia right now. We'll see what happens. He's going to be tough to wrangle in. He doesn't even have, if you go look on his page, in all caps, he has, I do not have representation. I represent only myself. So, there's another part to it. So seems like he can either be really tough or easy to deal with on that. All right, last one here. I think that's it. Yeah, we got one more for Oklahoma State. Sam Keltner, a kicker out of SMU. This is a kid that should come in and be your starting kicker next year. Let me make sure. All right. Yeah, he was 70% on regular field goals, 94% percentage on let me make sure I'm getting this correct here. Yeah, it looks like he was 94% on place on, just regular extra points, 94% percentage, which is really good. 70% on regular field goals is a good number. Long of 51. He scored 78 points last year, so that's pretty good. If you go game by game, we'll go game by game really quick, and then we'll get out of here. Game by game, it looks like he was not great. He didn't start off the season too great, but against, he missed from 49 against who is that? Missouri State. He missed from 50 against TCU, but he was 1 for 1 from 28. So he was 1-1 that game. He missed another one from 50 against Syracuse, but he on his extra points, He's 4 for 4, 3 for 3, 4 for 4, 4 for 4. So he's a really good extra points kicker. It looks like he, intermediate kicker, anything from 40 in, it looks like he's nails. In all his kicks, he hasn't missed a single kick from 40 in. So if you look at him from 30 to 39 yards, he's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for 8. He's 4 for 4 from 20 to 29, 4 for 4 from 30 to 39, and 5 out of 10 from 40 to 49. He's 1 for 2 on 50 plus. So that gives you 14 out of 20, which is right around 70%, I guess. But extra points, 36 out of 38. But I mean, that's solid. It's a solid player. Probably be your starting kicker next year, or close. So, kickers are important. They're weapons, man. Do we have some SEC trolls in here? I wasn't sure. Interesting. They just need to see their name, don't they? Wes King Burdett was on campus the other day. I don't know the outcome of that. I would imagine not great since he didn't commit already, but that doesn't always mean anything. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was working with the agent of Devin Vass, the K-State transfer. He knows a coworker of mine, and so we were able to connect that way, and that's how I had that information so early. I think I was the first person that knew about Vass coming yesterday. I knew it at 8 or 9 in the morning. So, but so the way things kind of work is they come. It's either a 1-day or 2-day visit. You like a 1 day and then into the next day when they leave that the next day. And so usually what happens is at the end of the visit, then the GM Chuck Lilly will send in to the agent or the player or both paperwork on a proposed contract. And so it takes time to look over that and read it and figure out what the details might be. And there's some negotiations that sometimes go on, or sometimes it's just, you know what, we're going to go to the next spot. So there's a lot of that. So it's a lot of hurry up and wait. So a lot of times, like Wes King, for instance, maybe they're still negotiating. Maybe they've decided to move on. I don't know. I'll try to find out, but some of these people, they just don't respond to people. Unless you're like Nakos or somebody like that. So they've got that issue. And then some of these agents, will only divulge certain information. So it's a crapshoot. It's not always, I'm lucky because I have relationships with a lot of these guys because I've been covering the portal for going on 3 years now. So a lot of these agents I've worked with, but there's new ones that pop up all the time that I have no clue who they are. And I was actually talking with Devin's agent yesterday, and what we were talking about was, he's a financial planner. He works for a law firm. He's a lawyer. He's perfectly credentialed to do that job. When you think about it, he can look at a contract and tell a player, yeah, you're getting screwed. Yeah, you're not. If somebody's representing themselves, most likely it's going to be easier to pull one over on them. It's just the facts. Doesn't mean you're stupid. It's just, if you don't know, you don't know. Oh, we got Wes King. Well, then I need to get off here and do another video. That's a big one. So he committed right before I came, like 3 minutes after I started this video, he committed. That's how it usually works. All right, guys. Well, I've got to roll right back into another video. Thanks for being here for this Locked On Oklahoma State, Locked On West Virginia crossover. West Virginia gets a big guard in Wes King from Wyoming. Let's go. We'll be right back on Locked On West Virginia, Locked On Ohio State, Oklahoma State. I ruined it. I ruined my fan base. Whew. Just take a breath, Paul. Just take a breath. Grant Segrin committed to Northwestern. Oh, man. Maybe I need to give up on Dew as well, Doug Hurst. I can't even read your name right. It's Doghurst. I said Doghurst, and it's Doughurst. Lordy mercy. All right, y'all. Hey, let's have a great rest of your day. And we'll talk to you on the next one. If you could, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you do me another big favor. And Everydayers Club. We talk about it every single time. It is a big deal. So, we appreciate you making Locked On West Virginia and Oklahoma State your first listen. But if you could, go check out the new Everydayer Club. You can get access to ad-free audio, which is compatible with Apple, Spotify, all of it. You can get an invite to members-only Locked On Everydayers Club Discord, which includes a group chat just for listeners of the show and hosts. So that's a big deal. And then also you can get your show's direct URL, which I will share with you really quick before we jump out of here. All right. So if you're listening on audio, it's Locked On Podcasts with an S.com /Everydayer Club. So Everydayer Club, DAYER. All right, guys, got to bounce. Got to cover another commitment here. We will talk on the next one. Thank you so much for being here. And we're out. Q Country Roads.